Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Mindspace podcast brought to you by mytherapist.ng. In this episode, I have a very special guest. But before I introduce the guest, I want you to subscribe, like, and follow if this is your first time. Before we get into the episode,
I would love to introduce you guys to our amazing guest, Abigail. Please, could you introduce yourself? All right. Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Abigail Oni. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, trauma and inner child healing therapist, the best of its kind in Africa. And I'm glad to be here. Wow.
those accolades, would I say, they're already gingering me. And I guess that seeing as this episode is going to focus on trauma, the first question to ask you is, what exactly is trauma? We've been seeing it a lot everywhere. What is trauma?
Okay, so trauma in the most basic explanation just simply means any upsetting event, anything that happens to you, and then you find it hard to cope afterwards. Any event, situation happened to you, and then afterwards you find it cope or to have your daily trauma. The second part is this: trauma isn't just about what happens to you. Trauma is also about what didn't happen to you. So you grew up in an environment as a child, and perhaps your environment was highly stressed, toxic. You have parental conflict, all of this, and it was really upsetting, and that was traumatizing for you. That's one part of trauma. The other part is in that environment, there were things you did not receive. And that's why there are some people who grew up in an environment where there was no violence. It wasn't marked by high stress. Their needs were met, but they're still traumatized. That means they didn't get the things they were supposed to get, which is the basic developmental needs of a child. We're talking about the need for emotional validation, the need for love, unconditional love. I know most Nigerians never had their parents sing to them before they go to bed. There was nothing like lullaby,
Or even say, I love you.
or even say I love you, or when you make mistakes, some okay, it's fine. Emotional validation. If you didn't get that, then that's also trauma.
So, how would you say all of this affects, someone's mental health? How do they affect their relationships? How do they affect the overall well-being?
Okay, so trauma is crippling. Trauma is like, think of trauma as cancer for mental health. Once you've been traumatized, once you grew up in an environment where there's ACEs, that's adverse childhood experience, that translates into trauma. It affects almost everything about you as a person. It affects your relationship. So it affects your relationship. You can't make sound decisions when it comes to relationship. You can't choose the right partner. You're always looking for something that was missing in your childhood in that partner. And so you make a mistake. So you end up attracting people with narcissistic tendencies. It affects all aspects of your life. Your choice of career. So most people who grew up in homes like that, you see them wanting to be lawyers, wanting to be policemen, wanting to be law enforcement officers so they can protect the society in a bid to protect that inner child that wasn't loved. So it affects all aspects of your life. It affects how you sit.
How about signs and symptoms? How would I know if my friend or a family member or someone I love dearly has perhaps unresolved trauma from the past?
All right. So it could be complicated because sometimes the signs and symptoms they can be masked. If a child grew up in an environment where he or she was, their parents were highly critical of the child, they're always happy and they have what we call attention to them. They're bleeding on the inside. They're maxing. And then you have this other set of people because the society also contributes to how we respond, even though we had this kind of background. So when you see people who find it hard to be accountable, it is hard for them to say, I was wrong, I apologize. You find people who are always on the defensive. No matter what you tell them, they can never allow themselves to say, okay, fine, it is what it is. So what can I do to change? Then you see this other set of people who are in relationships that are toxic. And they tell you, so many men in the world or in Nigeria, the person I'm dating is up. They'll make excuses. So you find people like that, then you know that something is up. And then lastly, you find people that find fault in everything everyone does. If you have them as your boss, then you're in trouble because there is nothing you can ever do to please such
the person. So they have this vacuum deep inside of them that there is nothing that can fill that. So they take it out of the everything you do is questioned.
that the people that are overly zealous, overly religious, believe that their village people are looking.
Please let me say, I feel like you just described archetypes of Nigerians. Like the different Nigerians you look everywhere. These are the archetypes. And it's so jarring, but at the same time, it's clarifying. Yes, exactly. So some of these behaviors are a result of unresolved trauma. And I guess now we've spoken about the signs and symptoms. The next thing is how can we help these people, or how can people help themselves? What are the ways they can help to overcome these traumas? One thing that I would even ask as a Nigerian, how do they even convince themselves that they have tracks with guys quirks? Especially that last like a person you mentioned, one always leads eventually through are coming after them. How do you kind of tell that person you have trauma? I don't know how Nigerians you connect with or mental health, anything mental health with it will even justify that person is not justified. As far yes, it is indeed my village people. So
First, it starts by telling yourself the truth. You need to acknowledge the fact that every Nigerian born in Nigeria has what we call collective trauma. Please, I'm going to say this again. If you're Nigerian, you're born in Nigeria, you're in Nigeria, whether you've traveled out or not, as long as you're born in this country, you have what we call collective trauma. Because this is post-colonial. There's that trauma that was left in our ancestors from the slavery era, how they saw themselves, and then the generation continues. So we have what we call generational trauma cycle. So you're not out of it, right? Once you are aware and start healing, then that's good. Number one, you need to tell yourself the truth. You need to acknowledge the impact of trauma. Telling yourself the truth simply means, firstly, I walked into this place. And the first thing I did was to check for exits. But you walked into this place, you were calm. You sat down and you started preparing to host you. So what made you calm? So if I'm to tell myself the truth, I'm to say, oh, wow, she didn't do that. Then there's something wrong with me. So I tell myself the truth. I acknowledge that going through that kind of childhood did something to me. In fact, take introspect, sit down, think about your childhood. Think about what happened when you were growing up. How did your parents talk to you? How did you relate with your siblings? Were there things that happened in your household and you're ashamed to talk about? Were there things that happened that when you see other people and they tell you about their childhood, you feel jealous, you feel sad. You're like, you're better, my own. Nobody's seen for us. We could go sleep. That means something is wrong. That's number one. Think about your childhood and then accept the impact of trauma. You need to accept the fact that when you grow up in an environment that is toxic, it does something to your psychic. It affects everything you do as an adult because those formative years are critical. So a child forms his or her subconscious from 0 to 7 years. What does that tell you? The subconscious is the part of you that is alive when you go to sleep. When you are awake, we are using our conscious mind right now. So once we sleep, our subconscious mind comes alive. Your subconscious mind has all the memories from everything that has ever happened to you. So you built that from 0 to 7. And so when a child comes into the world, the first set of eyes the child sees, the child starts to form meaning to what that eyes is seeing. So a child can't see clearly in 3 months. So from 3 months, what was the child seeing? And so people would say, no, nothing affects a baby. Let's fight in front of the baby. No, we must finish this argument. And one of them would say, the baby is here. Say, no, the baby does not know anything. No, you're wrong. From 0 to 7, a child starts to form their subconscious. So what you need to do is to pay attention to what we're saying. Key into this channel and make sure that you're listening to everything we say about mental health and what other people have said. And acknowledge the fact that trauma exists and it can impact you. Number 2, seek help. And please, I am a child of God. I am a Christian and I pray, but I am a professional. And I've had people come to therapy and they'll still come to therapy who are also Christians, Muslims, and what have you. It's not about your religion. So you can't pray out trauma. You can't spray out trauma. You can't go and someone will lay hands on you and you shake and magically your trauma has disappeared. It doesn't make sense. Trauma is what happened to you that shouldn't have happened to you. So if someone lay hands on you, have they erased your past? Have they erased those memories that gives you nightmares, that gives you PTSD, that makes you respond? You get angry from 0, you go to 100. You react in a way that doesn't make sense. It's disproportionate to the issue. So you seek help. I mean, there should be on mytherapist.ng, you can easily just book for any therapist that you want, and it's really affordable. So go there, book for a therapist. If you have trauma, look for a trauma therapist and start therapy, start your healing journey. So, number one, you need to think about your childhood, think of what happened to you, and compare and contrast. Number two, you need to acknowledge the fact that trauma exists and it has devastating impacts. And then number three, seek help. Seek help. Don't become over religious about first aid. Please. Jesus Christ died so that you can listen to this today. And the reason why you're listening to this, you have data to listen to this, is because God loves you and He wants you to listen. So take this as a sign that God sent Fozia and I here to have this so you can listen, so you can seek help.
I love it. And I think what I can gather from that is deep self-introspection. And then after that, seek help.
And now to the matter of help. Within this mental health, I'm sure you've understood or you've heard of stories of people who maybe they meet a certain therapist or a counselor and the care wasn't quite there yet. It's either it didn't fulfill the needs that the person needed, or it was bad, as in the therapist responded in another way or in a wrong way. Enough.
Just wasn't enough. So there is something called trauma-informed care. Can you tell us a bit about what trauma-informed care is and why
you after some deep self-introspection, you should, look for trauma-informed care?
Okay, so first of all, I want to apologize on behalf of all the therapists in Africa. That's my domain. And of course, abroad. I want to say that you would always find people who are out of the norm. You always find people who do things just because they want to do things and make money. They don't care about people. So what you need to do is to make sure that whoever you're going to see is certified, is licensed, and the person is specializing in an area of your interest. Now, trauma treatment is complex, it's different.
I happen to be 1 out of 0 who is doing inner child healing in Nigeria, and then 1 out of 5 in
Africa. So you see this because it's complex. It's not a walk in the park. It's intense. It's so much work. So a lot of people just want to focus on other specializations, CBT and what have you. So if you have trauma, go for a trauma therapist. It's good.
People coming up now who are specializing in trauma, which is good. So go for someone who is specialized. Go for someone who is certified. Go for someone who is licensed. And then ask them these questions. Are you certified? Are you licensed? Don't be afraid to do that. Just because I have a doctor to my end doesn't mean you don't have the right to question me. That's one. And so number two, trauma-informed care simply means approaches that we use to help the client to heal. It could be CPT, cognitive process therapy. It could be MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. It could be trauma-focused
cognitive behavioral therapy. So I do TFCBT. That's a trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and I do MBCT. I use mindfulness, which
encapsulates breath work, meditation. I do hypnotherapy as well. I do hypnosis, because at that hypnosis level, you're helping the clients. Yes, hidden hypnosis. You're taking the clients to a level where there's an altered state of consciousness, and you help the clients to do the change work at a very deep level. And I'm the only one doing hypnotherapy in Nigeria. If there's another person, I haven't met the person yet. And I'm very, very careful with that. So now there are so many approaches. Now the trauma-informed care simply means it's trauma-focused. Everything we're doing for the client is from a point of view of trauma. And then we do Afro-therapy with that, which simply just covers the fact that I understand you're African. So I understand the challenges an African is facing. So I'm going to help you using the approaches that covers your challenges, that respects your culture, that respects the fact that you're an African person. And these are your peculiar challenges.
So trauma-informed approaches
doesn't ask what is wrong with you. Trauma-informed care approach asks, what happened to you? What happened to us? What hurt you? Let's talk about it. What happened? It moves the client from a place of self-awareness,
Introspection, resilience, to a point where you heal, to a point where you set boundaries, to a point where you start reclaiming your power. And then you become the parent for yourself through a step called reparenting, where you're able to give yourself the love you did not in childhood. So we take you through that. And sometimes it could take 6 months, sometimes it could take 3 months, sometimes it could take a year. It depends on your level of resilience and adaptability. So trauma-informed approaches just simply ask 2 questions. It's not about what's wrong with you, it's about what happened to you. Because for each and every one on the surface of the earth, something did happen to them.
And there is such a profound difference in what is wrong with you and what happened to you. Already hearing the question, you're taking a step back.
Yeah, it's like, you get me.
Yes. It's asking you to go into your mind. Now, what happened to you?
Exactly.
Wow. And also, I would like to say that those statistics are dire.
The fact that you're the only one that is doing it. This is apart from that. You're 1 out of 5 in Africa.
Other centers that are doing it. And of course,
have therapists in that, yes. But in Nigeria, I haven't found someone yet. I know that there are other people that are doing psychotherapy. A lot of people are doing psychotherapy, which is amazing. But I haven't found someone who does master hypnosis just yet.
Okay.
maybe they're available, maybe they're not online, maybe I haven't met them yet.
Yes. Now we have some questions from our audience.
Okay.
And after hearing all of this, they would like to know, how do you know when it's actually time to seek
Professional help. Instead of trying to heal from trauma on your own, because maybe you grew up to be
reliance? There's some people that grew up, they don't think that it's okay to ask for help, or
Yes.
asking for help is really difficult.
Yes.
So how do you know to stop yourself and say, well, now is the time to go and seek professional help?
Well, some people actually do know they need help, but it's their inability to move their body to get the help. So it's not really about when do you know it is the right time to get help, because there's what we call head knowledge, there's what we call body knowledge in therapy, in somatic therapy. So once your body start telling you that, Omo, it is time, you can't keep making the same mistakes over and over again and expecting something to change. You can't keep attracting guys who are users. All they want is to use you. At some point, you would have sat down to say, what is wrong with me? Am I the one that is the problem? You hear some ladies say, am I not beautiful enough? How come I cannot get a decent man? That's when you know that it's time to get help. Because, your case cannot be the only peculiar one. There are people around you getting married, but you keep doing the same thing. You keep attracting the same people. You keep getting guys, the same cycle, getting guys that you spend on them. Sometimes you collect your salary, you give it to them.
Savings.
Tell them to, you're the guy, you're in charge. And then you go to a man's house, instead of you to just be a girlfriend, you become a wife. And you're not yet a wife in the legal sense. And then you're doing all these responsibilities. You're our wife. Once you get to that point, it's time for you to get help because there's something wrong. And then other than that, if you have constant headache, migraines that you can't explain, you go to the hospital and they run some tests and they can't find what the problem is. That's a sign. You have this, for women, you have lower back pain, or you maybe have microdiscectomy or spondylosis. You went to the hospital, you were diagnosed with any of these ailments. It's connected to your mental health. Then it's time for you to tell yourself, I need help. And then if you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, you're always having IBS. And then you're this type that says, I don't eat outside. Whenever I eat outside, I cook my own meals. There's something wrong. Because we store these wounds in our body. We store mother wounds in our stomach. We store wounds, our lower back and different parts of the body, in our gut and what have you. Because the body keeps the score of what happens to you. That's why you walk into a space and your body responds. I can't place it.
There's just
something about this place I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Now, it's not about the place, so to say. It's about the experience that you've had that is similar. And there are people in that space who...
So your body recognizes, because your body has eyes. Yeah, it does. It takes in your joys, your sorrows, and your pain. So pay attention to your body. Pay attention to your health. As a woman, pay attention to your health. Very, very critical. If you start having severe menstrual cramps, you can't explain. You go to the hospital and they check, oh, maybe it's endometriosis, oh, maybe it's PCOS and the rest. Please try to also get a second opinion. See a trauma therapist. Go in for therapy. Go through your childhood and understand what's going on. If you have GERD as well,
Do all that. That is a sign that something is wrong, because there's a connection between your physical health and your mental health.
body starts speaking when you don't allow your mind to speak. And if you've gone through suppression of your experiences, your
Experience, which is worse, when you suppress your emotions, you have physical symptoms, then those physical symptoms is an indicator that something is wrong. And at that point, you should get help.
I think one huge thing that I learned from that answer is just how much your physical health is deeply related to your mental health.
I'm telling you.
It's like your body is one and the same. So if you're not listening to your heart, your mind, your body will pass the message across, basically. And then the last question is, how can someone start the process of healing their inner child if they've not sought or done any sort of therapy before?
Okay. It's the same thing. Get help. And healing the inner child is a beautiful experience, yet it is complex.
Yeah.
Like I said, you need to get a trauma therapist, because the inner child represents what happened to you, your unmet needs, those needs that would have helped you to develop into a functioning adult. When those needs are not met, then the inner child is wounded. And so the inner child, please listen to me, the inner child is not one little girl, one little boy that is spiritually following you. No, the inner child here simply refers to a part of your psyche.
because all your memories from childhood, everything that happened to you, and you know it is part of you. The brain, you have the
Long-term memory and what have you. The brain has that. So healing that aspect of you is critical, because it helps you to come into the fullness of your being. And as a woman, you're supposed to become a woman that is fully functional. So the inner child serves as a bridge between your past and your present. So when you heal the inner child, you connect the dot. So see a trauma therapist, book for a therapy session, and tell the person, I want to heal my inner child. So if the person does not specialize in inner child healing, he or she would refer you. But healing the inner child is specific. There you do what we call inner child work.
different from CBT and other approaches. So it is actually,
It's a specialty. So you need to get someone who does that.
but on your own. Because I know some people might say, oh yeah, I tried to get therapy. I don't think I can afford it. Hypnotherapy is expensive. Mytherapies.ng offers very, very affordable therapies, right?
But on your own, what I want you to start doing from today after listening to us, because when it comes to healing, knowledge is the number one thing.
Yes.
This, what we just did now,
It's pivotal to your healing. Now you have the knowledge. It's gonna
get you to start thinking about your childhood, about your life. You're going to start thinking, oh, I heard this. Dr. Abi said this. Let me think about my childhood. What happened in my childhood? So that's number one. Number two, on your own, sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what happened to me? Why do I act this way? Why do I respond this way? Or if you're a mom, why do I respond this way to my children? Who do they remind me of? Do I overly spend on them to the point where I go broke? I put them in private schools that are so expensive and I'm working my ass off to pay because I want to give them a life I didn't have. Start asking those questions. And you get the response. And once you get the response, sit with yourself and ask yourself, what can I do to change? Right?
And then I can teach you a quick breathing exercise. All you need to do is to close your eyes.
Put your right hand on your abdomen, right? Abdomen. And then sit upright. And then put this other hand on your lap. And close your eyes with us. Close your eyes. And when you close your eyes, just go inward. And just think about your childhood. And just imagine that there's a little girl or a little boy seated on a chair in a field. Walk up to that child and tell that child all the things you had wanted your parents, your caregivers,
to sing to you when you were a child.
Say it, my child.
Say 1 minute. And just say it all out. Everything, just say it. For instance, you had wanted your parents to understand that you were just a child and you didn't know better. So they should have treated you as a child. Tell that child the same thing. Perhaps you wanted your parent to say, you made a mistake, it's okay. Tell that child the same thing. Perhaps you wanted your parent to say, you are not fat. You're perfect for yourself. And once you're done, open your eyes. There'll be some tears when you're done because it's painful. You feel sad. You feel a certain kind of way. Some of you might tremble because you would see your younger self. That's your younger self you're going to see when you close your eyes and go to that space. Please, it is nothing spiritual. It is no jazz. It is just your mind.
Back to that memory. And once you're done with the exercise, get a journal. Get a journal and write down your feelings every day. Depending when you're able to start there. I think that's the best gift you can give to yourself. How was it? Wow. I saw you close your eyes and you were really serious.
Did you see young Fozia?
I did. I did. In a little school uniform, I did.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's nice. So you need to go back and do this when you get home.
I'll try. I'll try. Wow, it's been a wonderful time with you, Dr. Oni. You clearly explained what trauma is. You clearly contextualized trauma to our context, as Nigerians, as Africans, how it shows up for us. You told us some of the things that we might see, signs and symptoms, how we can overcome it, which is basically self-introspection and to seek help. You've told us even the type of help that we can seek, and you've even given us this little exercise. So it was such an exciting and wonderful and a deeply learning session with you, Dr. Oni. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm sure they can find you on where can they find you? Let us know.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram at Heal Trauma with Abby. I'm sure it will show on the screen. And then you can also call me if you want to have a chat on WhatsApp via 090 30 65 4472. 090 30 65 4472.
Okay, and I'm sure they can also find you on My Therapist.
Oh, yes, I'm on mytherapist.ng. Yes.
Thank you. So it's been a wonderful time. Thank you, Dr. Oni. We've learned so much. We've learned a lot. And that concludes the end of our podcast episode. It was such a wonderful time with Dr. Oni, and I promise you there's so much more coming in the pipeline. So you should subscribe, like, and just follow, keep up with us. So, Doctor, do you have any last words for us?
Yes. Okay. So we've talked a lot about trauma, and I know some people might go home and start feeling sad, and because they are not in therapy, they don't have the right support, and they don't know how to deal with these emotions. I just want you to know that regardless of all that has happened to you, that you are not your trauma. It is just a response to your condition in the way you've been conditioned by your environment. So you're simply just telling us that this is who I am based on my environment, based on where I grew up, but that still doesn't mean that you are your trauma. You are not your trauma. It is what happened to you. So don't become your trauma. Okay?
Wow. Thank you so much. That was lovely. And I love how you said you are not your trauma. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Oni, for having this special session with us. We learned a lot. It was wonderful and exciting.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. I'm sure you learned a lot of things like I did. You can always subscribe, like, and follow us because we have exciting and wonderful new episodes coming through. Thank you for watching. Bye.